Hello everyone. My chosen project topic uh, is based in Konya Basin, and uh, let's get started. So, first of all, I'm focusing on the drought management comparison between 2012 and 2022. Turkey has a semi-arid climate and experiences frequent temperature extremes. The Mediterranean Sea to the south and the Black Sea to the north provide Turkey with coastlines on all four of its other sides. Turkey also has beaches on two more sides, making it a heavily coastal country. Changes in the local climate may be quite varied even across relatively short distances because of variations in sea level and height. Depending on your latitude and longitude, the wind, temperature, and other elements of the weather may vary. The latitude gradient also plays a role in this temperature variance. The Mediterranean climate dominates the southern coast, with hot and dry summers and warm and wet winters. Along the northern coast of the Black Sea, the weather is warm and rainy for the most part of the year. The impacts of climate change represent a significant risk to the lives of people as well as the places and animals they call home. As a result of climate change, both humans and wild animals are going to have to overcome new obstacles in order to stay alive. A rise in the frequency and intensity of natural catastrophes, such as drought, may be the cause of direct injury to animals, the destruction of the habitats in which they reside, and the wreaking of devastating on people's means of survival. The continued evolution of climate change is resulting in the occurrence of increasingly frequent and severe extreme weather occurrences. The people involved are being coerced into dealing with the consequences. The impact of climate change, especially in areas where droughts are prevalent, is a relevant topic and one that could have national security implications. The possibility of a water supply shortage may be mitigated by increasing the variety of sources from which water is obtained. Diversified source water portfolios may be put in place in case of water shortages or interruptions in service. The safe output of reservoirs may be lowered when drought conditions worsen. More space may be made available to mitigate this threat. Increasing the height of a dam, engaging in aquifer storage and recovery, clearing silt from reservoirs, and decreasing the elevation at which water is taken in are all viable options. Due to climate change, there has been a reduction in the amount of rain and snow that has fallen, which has had a significant impact on the water supply. A decrease in agricultural yield brought on by a shortage of accessible water due to the absence of rain-fed agriculture, which is crucial to ensure there is enough food for everyone. The most major effects that climate change will have on water resources are going to increase in temperature, changes in the pattern of precipitation and snow cover, and most certainly an increase in the frequency with which droughts strike. Groundwater levels have dropped over the last 2 decades for a number of reasons, the most significant being the unavailability of surface water supplies to meet agricultural demand and the fact that agricultural operations have not been carried out in a manner consistent with the basin's water budget. Precipitation totals vary by elevation but average around 400 millimeters per year. So it's 15.7 inches. Most often receiving less than 300 millimeters of precipitation each year, the Konya Plateau is the driest area in the country, as 11.8 inches. The month of May tends to be the wettest, while July and August tend to be the driest. In Turkey, the wet seasons are winter and spring, when the majority of precipitation falls. Although summer sees higher temperatures and more evaporation, it sees less rain. The yearly average precipitation in Turkey's 25 basins was determined by compiling data from 225 rain gauges. The groundwater table is falling, and rainfall alone isn't enough to reverse the trend. With the continued effects of climate change in the area, water constraints are inevitable without an efficient basin management strategy. So, major source of water. Drought phenomena occur especially in arid and semi-arid areas and in particularly closed basins where the volume of water available is scarce to meet the demand. Konya Basin in Turkey is one of the most useful basins in the country but is frequently affected by water scarcity during drought spells. Konya is a closed basin wholly surrounded by river basins. The Mediterranean basin to the south, Sakarya and Kızılırmak River Basin to the north, Antalya and Akarçay to the west, and Kızılırmak and Seyhan to the east. Turkey has 25 basins, and Konya is the third largest, covering a surface area of approximately 50 kilometers square. A large part of the basin is covered by huge plains with an altitude of about 900 to 1050 meters. Groundwater is the primary source of water to the basin, supplemented by rivers feeding the basin. These are considered the original source of water to the basin, which is recharged naturally through rainwater infiltration. To assess and better understand the groundwater flow system as well as determine future conditions, Konya Water and Sewerage Administration developed the Konya groundwater flow model. The original groundwater at the basin is replenished from time to time through precipitation in the area. Precipitation is therefore the main source of water input to the basin owing to it being surrounded by high mountains. The basin's annual average precipitation stands at 384 millimeters, equivalent to about 15% of the total average precipitation, creating surface runoff. How water gets to the users. As the saying goes, water is life. Water drawn from the Konya Basin is utilized for various uses, which include but are not limited to domestic, agriculture, public, and industry. As already mentioned, the surrounding area of Konya is an arid area, therefore requires supplementary water for use by the local people and industries since the natural rainwater cannot meet their demands. Being an arid area does not mean agriculture does not take place since crops require water throughout their growing period. Konya people practice irrigation farming for them to remain a food secure community. Konya Basin is the main source of water drawn for irrigation in the area. Water from the basin is pumped through pipes to large storage tanks and others directed to taps due to good gravity allowing free flow. Water at the storage tank is treated with chemicals to make water safe for use before being distributed to customers. The directly piped water to consumers is mostly utilized in crop irrigation. Cereals are the major types of crops produced in Konya under irrigation, which include wheat, sugar beets, and barley. A large volume of water drawn from the basin goes to agriculture owing to the aridity of the land in the area. The total area under irrigation is approximately 542,000 hectares, but only about 370,000 hectares of the irrigated land is with projects. The estimated water required for crop irrigation is about 2.7 billion meter cubic. Now let's compare the 2012 and I mean until now. Climate change as a global threat, as we all know, is affecting negatively all corners of the world, and Konya is not an exception. With increased human activities that do not protect and conserve the environment, climate change has accelerated over the recent decades. The threats to humanity and the planet as consequences of climate change have prompted the need to talk and act on mitigation measures to counter the post impacts and guarantee the future. Excessive pumping of water at Konya has led to a decline in water level continuously from year to year. To a further extent, the excessive pumping has resulted in the change of direction of groundwater flow in some local areas. The water level at the basin as of 2012 has significantly reduced compared to the 2022 level of water. There have been more than 30 meters decrease in water level at the Konya Basin from 1967 to the present day. In 2009, a wells assessment was done on 83 wells of this basin to determine the change in water levels. The research reveals that there was a significant variation of 40 to 50 meters in the western and 3 to 10 meters in the eastern parts of the subbasin. This indicates that there is a drop in the water level, although at different rates across the basin. Konya Municipality and European Environment Agency's datasets and files were useful for background information and searching, but not directly useful for my research. Instead, I found the Water Institute's data and satellite imagery more useful and applicable for this project. As you can see the historical changes from 2009 until today. Drought program in Konya Basin is geopolitically significant and includes potential security problems, both food security and national security problems, as well as potential intelligence problems in the region. Although oil supports some economies, agriculture is still an important part of the region's GDP and essential for maintaining national food security. Over the past 30 years, flows in the Euphrates-Tigris river system was reduced to almost 50% of the average annual flow in drought years. As Stephen mentioned on my feedback, there are potential conflicts related to Konya Basin, and Euphrates-Tigris is one of them as a case study example. Euphrates-Tigris Basin, which is shared by Turkey, Syria, and Iraq, has been a source of water conflict since the 1960s. Euphrates and Tigris rivers are the longest rivers in Southwest Asia. The main utilizers of the water of these rivers and tributaries are Turkey, Syria, Iran, and Iraq. The two rivers rise in Turkey, which makes it the upper riparian. Some of the tributaries of the Tigris and Shat al-Arab rivers rise in Iran, which makes it the second upper riparian for these rivers. The annual precipitation, which is very important again, in the upstream of ETB typically exceeds 1000 millimeter, whereas in the south of Iraq and Syria it was found to be less than 100 millimeters. Most of this precipitation occurs as snow in winter, and the water resources are mostly available in the form of snow melt, water during spring and winter. There are various dry periods which affect these countries, especially during the past 15 years. Among these four countries, Turkey has less severity and frequency of drought than the other three countries. In conclusion, a regional concept starting from a bilateral relationship on the basis of regionalization, institutionalization, civil society interrelation, strategic agricultural investment. Having effective institutionalized dialogue can be a first step to adapt climate change, achieve regional water, energy, food security nexus. Thanks for listening, and please let me know if you have any further questions.